Hello again. This is going to be the second video for Chapter 2. If you turn over to page 32, they start talking about emotional intelligence. This concept was made famous by David Goleman. He suggests that you should have certain skills in today's world. They are interpersonal and self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social awareness, social skills for a good leader. On page 33, you can look at it's broken down a little bit easier if you want to see what the definition is in the leadership that it's applicable to. On page 32, they also get into the different types of leadership. You will be doing this on your assignment. I'm not going to read it to you because you can see down, you got a definition in the words, but also in table 2.3, it breaks it down even further for you to understand. Of course, after you read the material and you have questions, you can contact me. On page 34, it goes into also, again, leadership styles. The competencies are on page 35. Some of this information we went over in Chapter 1 when you were looking at the ONET, when you were looking at the different tasks and things that you need to have as a manager. On the bottom of page 35, they talk about the cultural competencies. This is not only just for the patients, but also your working condition with staffs. You know, nowadays we're dealing with different age groups, different genders, different minorities, different languages, all those kinds of things, and culture is really important within their facility. How things will, how good things will be. On page 36, also again it breaks it down into leadership dominance and competencies, and we've gone over that, and you can review that for yourself. On page 37, they get into leadership protocols, things that they think a good leader should have. Professionalism is one where it's the way you dress, the way you carry yourself, the way you communicate. Reciprocal trust and respect, how you earn it and how you give it. And always remember, it's a two-way street. If you expect your employees to give it to you, then you need to give it to them also. Be confident, optimistic, and passionate. Be visible. That means getting out of your office and actually talking to your employees and finding out what's going on. An open communicator, risk taker, an entrepreneur. Admitting fault. When you do something wrong, it's okay to say, hey, I did this wrong. This is what we're going to do to fix it. And balancing being a motivator, a vision setter, an analyzer, and taskmaster. If you turn over to page 38, they get into governance. This is where you're looking at board of directors, and we talked about some of this with the organizational chart, and you should get a little bit of this in Business 110. For-profit, you have a board of directors, which is made up of different community leaders that help that facility move along with their mission and vision statements. You have board of trustees for nonprofits, and they also help the business move along and stay current. They talk about Sarbanes-Oxley Act. This is a federal law when for-profits started getting involved in the stock market and stuff, being transparent to make sure there's no fraud and things like that. Transparency is the same thing as, if you do something wrong, you need to speak up and make sure it's not done again. Be honest, be open with it. On the bottom of page 39, it gets into healthcare governance trends, the old way, the new way, and I'll let you review that. On page 40, it gets into barriers and challenges that a healthcare manager has to face. All laws and regulations from Medicare, from the federal government, from local government. That's something that you have to stay up and stay current on. Physician challenges. I know currently there's a shortage in family practice and OBGYN physicians, and also physicians get down to rural areas to take care of those people. New technology, very expensive, hard to keep up with. Culture of change, culture of safety. The challenges of making sure patients don't have things left in. Recently, a couple months ago, I read about a patient who somebody left a sponge in and had multiple medical issues after that. And there was a blame game between the nurses and the physicians. Value-based purchasing and financial. Third-party payers such as Medicare. What are we getting for our money? We're paying you claims. What are we getting? What's the quality of care? And then women in top leadership. We still have barriers in that aspect. If you turn over, it gets into ethical responsibilities, the medical and the managerial. It talks about the codes of ethics. If you look on table 210 on page 43, here's some of the responsible areas for managers. It's to the profession, complying with law, to the patients and others served, make sure you prevent discrimination, safeguard patient confidentiality, to the organization, to the employees, to the community and society, and to report violations of code. This is something that's kind of like the code of conduct for us as managers. Leaders looking into the future. It gets into talking about leadership development, succession planning, when you know somebody's leaving, who's going to take that person's place. On page 45, it gets into different professional associations that they encourage managers to belong to stay current in what's going on. And then they get into innovation, big data, artificial intelligence, soft skills. The big thing with data is make sure you protect that, patient information, employee information from getting out to people who shouldn't have access to it. Soft skills are the interpersonal communication, critical thinking, time management, all those things that a manager should have. And then they talk about the Patient Protection Affordability Care Act, and it just gets into making sure that Americans have selected affordable health plans for health exchanges and people who may qualify for that Medicaid expansion. So please make sure you read this information. They do have it in words, and then it has a chart down below it. You can review that. You will have an assignment and also a test for this information. If you have any questions, please contact me. Thank you and have a great day.